Welcome back to the workshop, everyone. Today, we're about to embark on a journey that's part archaeology, part mechanics, and a little bit therapy. Because this bike has seen some things. What you're looking at is a vintage Legnano road bike. And let me tell you, when I first laid eyes on it, I almost felt sorry for it. The poor thing was in a state of complete dismay. Rusty metal parts, tires cracked like desert soil, bar tape worn and fraying, brakes and shifters stiff as stone. And to make matters worse, the seat post and rear wheel had been stolen. Probably because of the quick release, thieves love those. Though, funny enough, the rear wheel was still chain locked to the frame. That was the bike saying, "I may be old, but I'm not going down without a fight." So today we're bringing this legend back, step by step, part by part, and maybe with a few jokes along the way. Sit back, grab a drink, and enjoy watching this Italian beauty get another lease on life. Let's begin with the rear wheel. The first problem, the tire. What we've got here is dry rot. Now, dry rot is basically the tire's version of wrinkles. Over time, UV rays, ozone, extreme temperatures, and just plain old age break down the rubber compounds. The result? A brittle, cracked mess. If this tire was a human, it'd be begging for moisturizer. So we're going to replace both the tire and the inner tube. Out comes the tire lever. Off with the old rubber. And, yep, the rim strip too. It's shot. Always replace your rim strip when doing a full tire change. Think of it as cheap insurance. While we're here, I'm giving the rim a good clean with isopropyl alcohol and a rag. Pro tip, IPA in the workshop means isopropyl alcohol, not India Pale Ale. Save that one for after the job's done. Now, when installing a rim strip, line it up so the valve hole is clean and centered. Then comes the new tube. A little inflation first, just enough to give it shape. This helps prevent pinching and makes installation easier. The new tires, Continental. I'm running a 25 in the front and a 28 in the rear. Why the difference? Comfort. A slightly wider tire in the back helps absorb bumps. And here's something fun. I always line up the tire logo with the valve. Why? Because it looks pro, but more importantly, it helps you find punctures faster later on. Now, get one side of the bead on by hand.
Inflate the tube just a touch before installation. It helps prevent pinching.
Then tuck the tube in carefully. Work the other bead on. If it's too tight, tire levers can help, but be careful not to pinch the tube. Before inflating fully, check both sides to make sure no tube is caught between rim and tire. Secure the valve nut so it doesn't sink in, and inflate to pressure. Next up, we deal with the frame. This is always one of my favorite steps, because you get to see the soul of the bike under the grime. I'm removing the bottle cage, giving the frame a good clean and polish, and wow, you can already see that iconic Legnano logo starting to shine through again. Time for the drivetrain. First up, the chain. This one? It's toast. Rust everywhere. It's stretched and seized. Time for the chain breaker. And there it goes. Split and gone. Sometimes it's better not to fight. Here's a fun fact. Chains don't actually stretch. What happens is the pins and bushings wear, creating play, which makes the chain longer. It's a bit like humans shrinking with age, only in reverse. Next, the derailleur. Off it comes for cleaning. Now the crankset. Crank bolts out with an 8mm hex key. Sometimes these bolts are tight enough to make you question your gym routine. When in doubt, use a longer handle or a cheater bar for leverage. Next, the crank puller. Thread it into the crank arm carefully. Don't cross-thread it, or you'll ruin the arm. Lube the tool's threads with grease so it goes smoothly. Tighten the inner section with a wrench and off pops the crank arm. Satisfying. Repeat for the other side. Now for the bottom bracket. Italian threading here, which means, unlike English, both sides loosen counterclockwise. Thank you, Italy, for keeping us on our toes. Clean the threads, grease generously, and reinstall.
Did you know Italy stuck with their threading because they insisted standard was theirs? It wasn't wrong, just different, like pineapple on pizza.
Let's move on to the headset. Remove the stem bolt and lock nut. Slide out the quill stem. Now the fork drops out the bottom. And there it is. Decades of dried grease. Smells like old cheese mixed with motor oil. Lovely. Clean everything, cups, cones, and bearings. Pack in fresh grease, reassemble carefully. Bearings on the bottom, washers and lock nut back on top, and finally the quill stem goes back in. Did you know? Back in the day, some pro mechanics swore by Campagnolo grease, and some still do. They hoard it like fine wine. Unopened cans kept on shelves like collector's items. Next, the handlebars. Off comes the old tape. And underneath, that white powdery residue is salt from sweat. Years of effort corroding the bars. Clean it thoroughly before new tape goes on. When wrapping, I like to use a small strip of tape to cover the gap at the brake lever clamp. Makes for a neat pro finish. Wrap both sides evenly, keeping tension but not overstretching. Fun fact, bar tape used to be made of cotton cloth, and riders would even shellac it for durability. These days, we've got gel and synthetic materials. Your hands will thank you.
What's your favorite bar tape color? Let me know. Personally, I think vintage bikes look best with leather, but my palms prefer modern gel. Downtube shifters may look old school, but they're incredibly durable and versatile. Fewer moving parts mean fewer things to break, which is why tourers still love them.
Onto the rear cassette and free hub. First, off comes the lock ring. Then the axle nut, cup, and the bearings. A magnet is a lifesaver here, otherwise you'll be chasing little steel balls around the workshop. Now the free hub. Insert a 10mm hex key, loosen the fixing bolt, and off it comes. Clean everything thoroughly, re-grease, and reinstall. This hub had 9 loose bearings on each side. I upgraded to retainers. Retainers keep the bearings evenly spaced, prevent metal-to-metal contact, and help hold grease in. Basically, they're the reason your hub spins smoothly instead of sounding like a pepper grinder. Here's a quick history note. Legnano bikes were famous in Italy and beyond. Riders like Fausto Coppi and Gino Bartoli rode Legnano to victory. And there's something oddly therapeutic about wiping away years of neglect and seeing a frame come back to life. It's like archaeology, except instead of fossils, you get a rideable piece of history at the end.
The RD cable housing stop has corroded, so I had to improvise. Using a housing stop clamp on the down tube allowed me to install the shifter cable housing with cable ties to secure it along the chainstay.
Chain installation next. New chain sized correctly, joined with a pin. Then derailleur tuning. Set the high and low limit screws. Adjust cable tension. Fine-tune indexing. Smooth shifting achieved. Let's tackle the seat post. Anti-seize grease goes on to prevent it from cold welding itself into the frame. Yes, that happens. And no, you don't want to deal with it. For the clamp, I went with a good old bolt and nut. Why? Because a quick release is basically a polite invitation to bike thieves. Install the saddle, adjust angle, and tighten. Simple but satisfying.
Back in the day, pro riders would actually sand their tires for more grip. Don't try this at home unless you also enjoy road rash.
Next step, cabling. Out with the old stiff cables and housings, in with fresh new ones. Measure carefully. Too long and it looks sloppy. Too short and it kinks. Rule of thumb, measure twice, cut once. Before inserting, I inject grease into the housing. Makes braking smoother and the cables last longer. Finally, the brakes. Housing and cables in, pads aligned, spacing adjusted, cables capped. Brake feel should be firm but not harsh. Safety first. And don't skip end caps. Frayed cables are like split ends in hair. Messy, ugly, and totally preventable. And there we have it. From a rusty, neglected, parts-missing bike to a shining vintage Legnano ready for the road again. It's amazing what patience, grease, and a little improvisation can do. Bikes like this carry stories. They carried champions across Italy, and today we've carried this one back to life. If you enjoyed this restoration journey, hit like, subscribe, and share your vintage bike stories in the comments. What's the oldest bike you've ever worked on? And remember, every old bike deserves a second chance. Unless, of course, it's been welded into a garden fence. Then it's just art.